Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all you for being here today. Mr. Chair, when you were opening up, I was thinking about why I knew what a 90-day note was when I was 14 years old, because it kind of went like this. My dad did construction work. He had a relationship with a couple of agents, insurance agents, and when they had damage that was not of a major scale, that was my dad's work. And I was a 14-year-old helper that would be in the bank parking lot when my dad would go into a banker in Nashville, Tennessee that he had a relationship with and got a 90-day note. And that's what paid the bills for the project and ultimately put food on our table. We have all but overregulated those personal relationships out of business. My dad today probably couldn't get that 90-day note because he'd have some supervisor breathing down the bank's back about how could you possibly give this man money that's living paycheck to paycheck and trying to feed 6 kids. We are over-regulating in a way that is debanking people de facto. Now, Senator Warren mentioned, people have been debanked because they bounced a check a couple of times. That's called managing a risk. I'm not saying that they should not find a way to provide that person with help, but them having a consistent pattern of bouncing checks is not help in the long term. We need to figure out how to help them manage their finances, not force banks to carry an at-risk customer on in their portfolio. Now, if we talk about, and then we also talked about, and we've got the cannabis business. Well, the last time I checked, the cannabis business is illegal at a federal level. I, for one, think we should re-examine that. But we damn sure shouldn't do it by passing the Bank Secrecy Act, which makes it default legal before we've taken any firm position here that provides the industry with clarity. Somebody wants to work on rules of the road and do that and bank the industry in a cohesive, sustainable way that doesn't kind of skirt around the fact that it's still illegal at the federal level, count me in. Happy to do it. Now, I think we've got a lot of regulator-initiated debanking going on with this concept of reputational risk, Mr. Gannon. I think you got people going into the banks, and I don't know, these gun people may not be, these unsavory people, or fill in the blank. Now, I will tell you, so I want your input on that, but let me tell you what I've told every GSIB CEO that's been in my office, and everyone has been, and their counterparts in Europe. I said, if you act like a politician, I'm going to treat you like a politician. You provide banking services, period. Now, if you have judged, as a CEO, if you have judged that you want to do a bank that only banks blind-headed, blue-eyed people, and there's a market opportunity for that and a growth strategy, knock yourself out. If you can prove to the investors and the shareholders and your entity that it is in the best interest of your bank and your underlying strategy to grow, fine. But we have clearly seen reputational risk being overused by bank supervisors, bank examiners saying, well, maybe you want to move out of there. And it changes depending upon who's in the White House. I don't think that that's right in either case. Banks should be able to figure out what they can do to derive value and serve their customers. Can you give me some examples or your thoughts on whether or not, Mr. Gannon, you believe that a lot of these debanking is a direct result of regulators kind of doing a wink and a nod, this is an unsavory segment to serve?
Senator, I do think that, and the reason is regulators have taken the term reputation risk and made it incredibly
It's overly broad. It's anything.
It's almost the definition of subjective. It's not really tied or linked to anything that's objective. And one of the things that I can tell you, having sat in planning sessions for some fairly large banks, is it's impossible to plan against that. When you don't know what the terms are of what your regulator and supervisor wants you to do, it's really difficult to come up with a plan.
The perverse consequence of all this stuff is it's costing banks more money, it's shutting down more market opportunities, and making it more difficult to continue to bank the people that just bounced a couple of checks. Because at some point, you're affecting the business plan, the underlying success of the business, and they have to close the aperture to the most profitable, most sustainable part of business. So I just feel like we need to. I'm here to talk about the regulator-initiated debanking. I'm not talking about other behaviors where people lose financial services. We need to have a hearing and a discussion about that. But I would like anything you can provide for the record on some use cases of debanking that, in your opinion, was driven by a regulator interaction. That would be very helpful. I'm sorry I don't have more time. Thank you.
We'll do that, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to pick up where my friend Senator Tillis was on this question of reputational risk. I think it has been overused. I've been trying to push